What's up, guys? Welcome back to Diving Garage. It's time to finish off this small block Chevy build. We need to get the intake on, we need to get the valve train set, oil pan, timing cover, verify timing, harmonic balancer. We got a lot to do. So before we get to all that, one quick thing about my last video. This little guy right here caused me a lot of problems, and I appreciate you in the comments that called it out. I'm not one to claim to know everything. I'll tell you right now, I don't mind failing, I don't mind learning. So if you fail, you have an opportunity to learn. So that's the whole point of the channel, to encourage people to get out there and try. And sometimes that includes making a mistake, but to learn from those mistakes is where you grow. So what happened here was when I took this measurement, I measured from the outside of the top to the bottom. What I didn't account for was a little recess down there, and that threw off all my valve string measurements. So I went back, remeasured, rechecked, and I did make some adjustments. I ended up going with the 100 over valves, no shims, and just the locator. So thank you to those, you know who you are, who made those comments on my last video. So enough of that, let's dive into this.
Alright, so first thing up is to get these roller lifters set in place. These are link bar style lifters to accommodate our roller retrofit upgrade we're doing. Now keep an eye on the lifters for the number 2 cylinder. I'll explain why those look a little weird in just a second. Now I had these lifters sitting in that jug full of oil for a couple days really, but what I forgot to do was to lubricate the actual block, so the bores that the lifters go into were dry, so I had a little bit of a hard time. So when you're doing your build, don't forget that.
Alright, so I think I got this to work. This one lifter, there's always one problem child. This one lifter, I'm not too sure if it was part of the machining process or what, but this little lip right here, or this part where that, I guess the connector goes for this roller bearing, that part right there was a little bit higher than the rest. So I did some unspeakable things, and I got it filed down, and it goes in okay now. So it's not, it's nothing that's going to harm the lifter. I think it was just a teeny tiny machining error or machining variance. See, it goes in fine. That just caused it to hang up, you know, and looks good now. So we're going to go ahead and push on. All right, so this is the Pushrod length checking tool that I had. I got my push rods in. Check this out. Not bad. I'll put up a picture so you can see a little better, but I will be getting a set of 12-inch calipers for this measurement in the future. But hey, my tape measure method hasn't let me down yet. We're using here some Summit Racing thick wall push rods made in USA, America. Alrighty, so next up, we're going to make sure all of our push rods and guide plates are aligned. This process is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So basically all we're trying to do is make sure that the rocker doesn't do this while it's running. That's not good. Alright, so step one, take the rockers off. You set them down in here for now. And then take out one of your studs. Grab your Loctite. Just put a bit of it on there. You don't need a ton. Just throw it back in there. And you don't need to freak out once you put the Loctite on. You got about 10 minutes before it sets, so plenty of time. This won't take very long at all. The other one, a little bit of Loctite here. All right, we're gonna run these down until they're just snug, because we want to still be able to move that guide plate just a bit. So go there and back off a little bit. There, and back off, perfect. All right, let's make sure it's snug, give it a little test. It should move, snug up a bit more. You want it to be some resistance, so it'll kind of stay. There we go, so, yeah, it's not too bad. Okay, so, and then, that's perfect right there. So you can see how much movement you got here, and they make other sets to where it's split down the middle, maybe in a different pattern. So you can, if you have like a weird offset, or if you really want to dial it in, then you can weld them together, but these work just fine. All right, so then grab your rockers, throw them back on, and make sure your push rod is in its place. All right, cool, and then just look down here at your valve tips. So you can see here, got a bit of movement. So all we're gonna do now is we're gonna find center. So these might move a little bit by themselves, like here, like that. I'm actually gonna loosen these up just a tiny bit. Okay, there we go. So you got a good bit of adjustment here. So not there, not there, right about there. And then just check them out. They may not each be perfectly in the middle when you're using this fixed setup. Like I said, you could use the independent setup if you want. This side will just work just fine. There you go, right there. So then, this is the tricky part. So then get your rockers, pull them straight out. And then here, just snug these up just a bit more. There you go, snug them down, hand tight. Grab your rockers. We're gonna check. Check down. Look good to me. Gently take those off again. And grab your clicky stick. And go ahead and torque them down. We're doing 50 foot-pounds here. Oh, careful now. Perfect. All right, we can check them one more time. See if they're in the middle. That'll work for me. Perfect. So that's the process, and you'll see this one's up, not a whole lot of thread showing. That's because this one isn't at bottom dead center. It's okay. We'll be setting all the rockers here in just a little bit, but first you got to get your push rods lined up. So that's the process. Just go through and go ahead and do all of your guide plates, and then we can go back around again and we can get them all lashed. Alrighty, check this out. This is a timing cover we're going to be using. It's a Cloy's two-piece design with an adjustable thrust button. So under this plate here, there's a thrust button. You can rotate as you need more or less camshaft clearance. And then once you get your desired clearance, you can lock it down with that screw there. So not gonna lie, if you're doing this setup is tricky. So you can see there, I got my dial gauge, magnetic base. I went ahead and took out the stuff for cylinder number 1, lifters, rockers, push rods, all the sort. And let me get you over here. You'll see we got it set up. I was messing with this just a second ago, and we're gonna check out and see how much end play we have for our camshaft. What I'm gonna do is I'll set you up over there to watch the gauge. So that's all set up. It's set up right behind the chain. So as the chain moves forward and back, the gauge will capture that. So back down there, the distributor gear's down there, so we can gently pry on that and see how much end play we have. So I'm gonna set you up right here so you can check that out, see how that all works. All right, go ahead and check out that dial gauge. And I'm going to gently pry on that distributor gear with just a long screwdriver. All right, so watch that gauge. Going back. There we go. So that is all the way to the rear. That's all the way forward. So it looks like we have about 4.5 to 5 thousandths clearance. Let's do this a couple times to verify. Alright, yeah, it looks like we got about, let's call it 4 to 4.5 thousandths clearance. Now, comp calls for 5 to 10 thousandths clearance. So, I guess what I'm going to do here is tighten down that thrust button as far as it's going to go. It's already finger tight down. So I'm going to tighten it down as far as I can go, lock it down, and then remeasure, and to make sure we got as much clearance as we can, because the end plays, there's not a lot of end play here. We want to make sure we have at least some. All right, so here's the front. I'll go ahead and take the cover off so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. So here it is. This is the adjustable thrust button here. As you can see, this is the bearing. Behind that, if you turn it sideways, behind that there is a thrust button. It'll get longer if you loosen it out, and as you retract it, it gets shorter, right? So I'm going to crank that down probably as far as it's going to go. Tighten her up. She's right there. There we go. So also, this is not, this only goes on one way. So if you try putting it like that, it's not gonna work. So you can see here, if you get 2 of the holes to line up, the other 2 don't. So it seems a little weird. Like, I thought for sure this cutout was for the damper, but it's not. So this cutout here, it goes up. So now that we got that all the way down, bearing's nice and free. I did have to replace this hardware. I was using the stock hardware from when the engine was built, and it had like a built-in washer flange, and that was getting in the way of this thrust button. So I got some grade 8 hardware. It was grade 5 before, so I got some grade 8 hardware, got that torqued down, and we're gonna get this reset, and we'll recheck our end play. Alrighty, there are 100 videos out there on how to set lash, and I went over it quickly in the last video. So I'm just gonna go ahead and knock it out. I'm not gonna go over it again. But one thing I will tell you though, don't forget, use some assembly lube before you start going too crazy. Assembly lube is your friend. All right, we got the front main seal installed. So you're doing this, you can use a piece of PVC, you can use a seal driver, but what I like to do, I like to get this piece from your ball joint kit right here and just smack on the back of there. Works pretty good. So we're getting close to the end here. It's pretty exciting. So let's go ahead and drop on the intake. We got a couple more things to bolt on, and then we can call it done. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this gasket. And when you're putting it on, if you're putting RTV here and here, like you should be doing, don't use those little strips I gave you. When you set it on there, it might sort of fall down. It's not what we want. So what you can do is what I do: get a little bit of adhesive and just spray this gasket down before, so that way when you set it down, it'll stay right where you want it. And even under that, we're gonna get a little bit of RTV and go around here, just to assist in that sealing. All right, we'll let that set up for a second. So you can see way back here, I do have the oil pressure adapter in place. So what I'm gonna do is when you're dropping the intake on, use that as your locating point. Find that, guide it down, and then come off of it just slightly, and then you can drop it. And then obviously you'll have your gaskets there, and you can see the holes. All right, looking good. Let that set up for a second. I'm gonna show you real quick before I put the intake on. One good thing about these heads is that if you look right here, at that bolt there, it actually bottoms out. So normally you would need to thread seal all of them on the outer corners. You don't actually need to. On these, it does go into the oil galleys. But on these outer ones, there's no point in putting thread sealing because it goes into a closed chamber. Pretty cool. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put in the 4 corners, and then we're just gonna run them down finger tight, let it dry for about an hour, and then we'll torque all this stuff down. This thing's looking awesome. If you're wondering why I'm reusing this Edelbrock 2701, is it the best intake? Nope. Does it make the most power? Nope. But that's what I got. So, is it a little dirty still? Yep. But this is going in truck. This truck's probably gonna get pretty muddy. It's gonna be a work truck, you know, for whatever I gotta do, hauling stuff around, a little bit of off-roading, and you know, just overall fun, right? Hot rod stuff. So all these bolts are just barely tight. They're not torqued down yet. What I'm gonna do is let this rest for about an hour. And I got a couple other things to bolt on over here. I got a new oil filter adapter. And then I have this box here is the new valve covers, because I've tried to put my old valve covers on and they didn't fit. They bottomed out on the new rockers because they're bigger. So these are valve covers, tall valve covers, and this here is an oil fill. You can really see it. I'm gonna get that put on. I got a pointer, and then it's just a breather, no big deal. So let me get that set up and prepped, and we'll keep moving along. Well, I don't know. Those black valve covers fit fine, but I'm just not feeling it. So let's fix that. No, that's what I'm talking about. Let me get you in here. Check this out. Here we go. All right, so on this side, we're gonna run a breather. Then over here, we got that oil fill, and we're gonna run a PCV valve right there. Oh yeah, and this thing here is pretty trick. I like it. It just bolts in. They make weld-on versions as well, but this thing's pretty awesome. I had a lot of trouble working out an oil fill on my old valve covers, but this thing is gonna be great. It comes with an O-ring on this bottom piece here, but I may have accidentally made the hole too big, so I added some insurance. I put some RTV on there. It'll be fine, right? All right, so next up we got the balancer. Now this process, pretty straightforward. I'll show you how to do it. So before we take our pointer off, or our welding wire off that marks 0, let's just test it one more time. Alright, so you can see we're just a few degrees off here, and we need to set our new pointer, so we got to make sure we're correct. So let's get our breaker bar here, just go back to 0. Right there was off just a tiny bit. Cool, so now we can take our wheel off and prepare to press our balancer on. Alright, so let me get you in here to let this in real fast. Alright, so our adjustable pointer here can go a couple degrees out of the way. This is my old 0 mark. And then you can see, even if I have it all the way over, it's not quite there. So I'm gonna look at it straight. So you can see just a little off. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna scratch that off, get this where we want it, and make a new 0. I'll probably just put it all the way over like that, maybe in the middle. I don't know. But we'll get this tightened down, we'll make a new 0, so that way we know we don't lose our timing. Alright, so I got some silver layout fluid and made a line. You can see this is our 0 mark, and this is where the balancer is actually has a little engraving for 0. Look how far off that is. Never trust your balancer pointer. Set your timing, tighten your pointer, and make your own line. Alright, so it's pretty easy. You just whack it on and get the hammer, right? No, I'm just kidding. We're using the tool. You can get this from your local auto parts store. And you'll see on hundreds of YouTubes, you can rent this free from your local auto parts store. It's not free. You got pony at $50. And then when you return it, you get your $50 back, okay? So just know that going in. Let's get this in there. So it's pretty straightforward. Get the big end here. The small end here is gonna go in there like that. And then you need to find which one of these little bits in here is gonna work for you. So in our case, it's gonna be the 7/16 because we know that the snout is a 7/16. So this end is gonna go on here, inside of this tool, of course. It's gonna put it under there like that. But what you wanna do is make sure everything's all lubed up. You know, I rented this from my local auto parts store, and I'm pretty sure I was the last person to have it out because I see all of my anti-seize I used on here. Alright, there's that like that. And then you're gonna get this. Alright, for this bearing, you want to put the rotating end towards the nut. So it's going to go on there like this. So as the nut's turning, it'll rotate that bearing and apply even force to the balancer onto the crank. And then of course, we're going to put a little bit of lube right here, a little bit of lube on the snout of the crank. Then let me go grab my anti-seize real quick. We're going to anti-seize up all right here. And then this one you don't need to, because all we're going to do for this one is we're going to get it into the snout. Then we can use this bolt to turn that fitting and tighten it down. Now all we're doing for this one is just snugging it down. That's all we're doing. And then we're going to get a couple big wrenches, grab on here, and turn this big nut. Alright, so last time we used the anti-seize, worked okay. I'm going to try this time, this white lithium grease. See if that works any better. My can just quit on me. Comes out with a vengeance. Alright, and then like I said, we're just going to gently snug that one down. Don't really need a whole lot of force on that one. You see I'm really not putting a ton of force into it. I'm just gently turning. It's the mechanics here that are doing the real work. It's going well. I can still see from the side. Got plenty of ways to go. Right there. So this is the part where people will say, it feels like it stopped. You can stop. So actually I can see pretty good still. I got about, I don't know, call it a ½ inch of space between the timing cover. I got about 1 finger space between the timing cover and the balancer. I'm gonna keep going just a little bit. Okay. Oh yeah, right there feels like a good place to stop. So now that we're here on your front here, just start reversing out. And if you're lucky, this will come out with it. Alright, so let's see. Yeah, this may or may not happen to you. It looks like our little adapter stayed in there. So what we're going to try is put this bolt back in, snug it down, and then yank it out. No dice. Try something else. There it is. What I ended up doing was put the whole tool back together, snug this down pretty good, and then turn this section, this part of the larger body here, turn that, and that turned the whole assembly out. No problem. So if that happens, don't freak out. You can get it out, don't worry. Now that we have our timing set with our pointer, we got a line. I'm going to come back with a paint pen. I just used some silver layout fluid this time. I'll come back with a paint pen, make sure that's nice and dark so we never lose that. And I like making labels on this front too, not just here, make them here. And side note, I think it's, what is it, MSD? I think MSD makes the timing tapes that go right here. They never stay on. Probably spent like 30, 40 bucks buying them over and over and over. And so I realized that's just never going to work. Maybe it doesn't work for me. Does it work for you? Let me know. Drop it in the comment. Did you do something special? I'd like to know about it. But I find I have better luck putting markings on this face here. Yep. Alright guys, minus some accessories, this build is complete. If you're following along, you saw all the parts I put in here. I spend it where it matters, save money where you can. As always, thanks for watching. If this is your first time on the channel, go check out the other videos to see what I put in this build. Now get out there and dive into your next project. See you next time.